everyone, it's Reagan and welcome back to another video. Today I'm doing a much anticipated video for myself because honestly the research and putting together this type of video is always my favorite because it gets me so hyped. That's right, today I'm going to be chatting through my most anticipated book releases of 2020. Though I'll say because there's just so many, I tried to keep it kind of isolated to the first half of the year while sprinkling in a few very obvious ones in this video. And I will of course be following up with the summer and a fall winter one, which I do every year, but there's just so many I needed to just focus on spring and winter first and foremost. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. So starting out with some January releases, I'm gonna start with The Hand on the Wall by Maureen Johnson. This is the third and final book to the Truly Devious series and one that is just so close to my heart. This series is a classic whodunit style story, and in the first one we follow our main character Stevie, who's basically trying to solve the mystery of the century. She attends this very fancy, intellectual driven private school in Vermont that was founded by a rich business tycoon whose family, shortly after opening the school, was kidnapped, and this crime was never solved. Enter in Stevie, present day, trying to solve it. It's just such a captivating story. I can't wait to see how things wrap up. I already know because I got the third book early, but is definitely had my most anticipated for 2020. I feel like the story threads so well through books 1 through 3, and I know this third book is gonna be killer. Thriller pun. Next on my list is A Heart So Fierce and Broken. This of course is a follow-up to A Curse So Dark and Lonely, which I read last year. This was one of my favorite angsty YA novels I read that really helped me get out of a reading slump. It is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but really puts a unique spin on it, has lots of humor and really entertaining characters, so I'm excited to see how the story continues in this sequel. Lots of angst, lots of romance, lots of really funny dialogue as well. It's truly a winner, and I think the main character is really endearing and lovable, so I'm excited for this. I feel like it's gonna be the perfect book to read and just fly through one weekend, so definitely on my list. Next on my list is Heart of Flames, which is the sequel to Crown of Feathers, which honestly I feel like is a super underrated book for 2019. Heart of Flames is a sequel to this book, and it is a really strong YA fantasy novel, which is definitely one of my favorite YA fantasies I read last year. In the first novel, you basically follow two sisters who have now been like very divided. They're very conflicted with one another, because in a world that was once ruled by fierce warrior queens that used to ride phoenixes, and they were called phoenix riders, essentially their power and their crown was destroyed by the current ruling regime, and basically women and any woman bearing any type of magical power or a tendency to be a phoenix rider, obviously in a lot of danger. We follow two sister main characters who have been in hiding their whole lives because they do actually have this power. In the beginning of the book, they actually hatch their phoenixes, and this kind of tears them apart. While they've been sisters, they are very different from one another. However, a conflict between these two sisters kind of tears them apart. They set off on different ways. One of them just kind of wanted to become a phoenix rider and help kind of change the course of history, but then our older sister kind of reappears with this tangled web of lies. Like, things start to get very complicated. I love this book. I think it's so well written. I think the magic is so entertaining, but more than anything, the sisterly relationship is super complicated and devastatingly like entrancing. You cannot put this book down, so really excited for the sequel is what I mean to just kind of segue into. If you haven't read Crown of Feathers, check it out because it is good. Next up, I have Shorefall by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is not YA, but it is also exceptional. This release date unfortunately got pushed from January to April, but it's still the top of my list. Foundry Side, which is the first novel, is just an exceptional adult fantasy series. Our main character, who's a thief who steals an impossible object, which gets her stuck dead center in between merchant house politics. She lives in a city that's basically controlled by different merchant lords, and the parts that's not controlled by them is called Foundry Side, which has no law at all. There's magic, there's adventure, there's romance. It's an incredible series, and I'm excited for this sequel too. Welcome to my most anticipated sequels of 2020. On to a book that is not a sequel. I'm gonna be mentioning The Shadows Between Us. This is a new dark YA fantasy debut novel, I wanna say, and the part of this synopsis that really sold me was this. Alessandra is tired of being overlooked, and she has a plan to gain power. 1, woo the Shadow King. 2, marry him. 3, kill him and take his kingdom for herself. I love a revenge plot YA fantasy set in the center of like court politics. I love a main character that has like, you know, her heart set on revenge and assassinating a king. So very intrigued, curious to see where the story goes from the synopsis. It has really strong early reviews as well, so definitely on my list and one I plan to pick up in February. Next new release is Havenfall by Sarah Holland, and this is just kind of a dark, whimsical novel that really caught my eye. It kind of has a feeling of this like atmospheric fairy tale type tale, which is honestly one of my big weaknesses. And this is essentially following Havenfall, which is a safe haven for the 4 realms, and I believe they all kind of culminate in this one place. And our main character is the keeper and the protector of this safe space. Safe space takes the like form of an inn. For our main character Maddie, who lives and works there, and her family has kind of been the innkeeper for many generations, her dream is to one day, you know, be the head of this inn and continue on the family tradition. But this dream is shattered one day when a dead body shows up at the inn, which kind of breaks the trust for all the different realms, because this is supposed to be a safe haven. So with all of this going on, Maddie, our main character, kind of finds herself in the middle and in charge of the safety of everyone, including Havenfell itself. It just sounds really cool. I love the idea of an inn in the Colorado mountains that is like a safe space, the connection between 4 different realms of existence. There's like gonna be magic and politics and people from all over the place. It sounds really cool and really unique, so definitely picking this one up. Next book that's on my highly anticipated list is The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu. Marie Lu is an author I actually hope to read more of in 2020, just in general, because I haven't read a lot of her books, but this one sounds really entertaining and very interesting and unique. It's a YA historical fantasy series where we follow the sister of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and she is a composer. She's loved music, she's very talented, and she's always dreamed of becoming a composer, but because she's a woman in 18th century Europe, this dream is not for her, and she knows as she gets older and eventually she's gonna get married off, she's gonna be forbidden from pursuing this passion. Not to mention, she's also beginning to become eclipsed by her younger, more talented brother, and this is causing her a lot of strain. So one day, when a mysterious stranger from a mysterious land comes to her and offers her something she quite frankly cannot refuse, she takes it and her world is like turned upside down. This sounds like a fairy bargain combined with historical fiction and like music. It sounds really entrancing, and I'm very curious to see how this kind of all unfurls. So this will be read. And the last 3 books I'm going to chat about are all very well known, so I'm going to kind of buzz through them pretty quickly. The first one being Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. I think this is actually the first book to a new series by her. Regardless though, I'm very interested. I also think this is a historical fiction one set in the 20s, if I'm remembering my Cassandra Clare lore correctly. Honestly, I feel like Cassandra Clare has been on a roll. I thought the Lady Midnight series was superb, her best since the Infernal Devices. So I'm really interested to encounter some new characters, some new Shadowhunter world stuff, and some new historical settings for her story. So this will be read with the rest of the internet. I also, of course, have to mention Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive #4, which comes out this year in 2020. I'm screaming, I'm so excited, but I'm also unprepared. I need to like reread the first 3 novels or read really in-depth summaries so I can just be ready to dive in immediately when that 4th book comes out. Obviously, the Stormlight Archive is my favorite fantasy series of all time. It's exceptional with wonderful characters and world building and everything you want. So this is obviously a priority for me in 2020. And I also just want to give like a general shout out to Brandon Sanderson for writing books so consistently. He has been a constant in my life and one who has never disappointed me or let me down with like a 7-year wait between books. I mean, he's put out 4 books in the Stormlight Archive in the past 10 years. Versus some people need like 35 years to write 1 book. I'm just saying. The very last book I'm going to mention is Empire of Dreams by Rae Carson. This is the 4th book and the continuation of one of my all-time favorite fantasy series, of the Girl in Fire of Thorns series. That for some reason is a tongue twister for me, but Rae Carson is one of my favorite YA authors. I feel like she really delves deep on some topics that aren't often like chatted through or experienced in YA. This particular series deals with a lot of identity complexities, which I just find really admirable. It's truly a journey of a main character kind of coming through life and accepting herself. Definitely trigger warnings for binge eating and other types of eating disorders within this series, but it is such a wonderful, fantastical world that is still so unique. I feel like there has not been YA fantasy that has come close to, again, doing the things that Ray Carson does within this world. So to say I'm excited for a 4th book is an understatement. I honestly might reread The Girl of Fire of Thorns, which I've already read twice in my life, but you know, let's add a 3rd time, just so I can, again, be prepared to just read the 4th one with my face. It's gonna be so great. Alrighty guys, those are my most anticipated book releases of 2020. Let me know down below some books you're really excited to read, as I would love to know, and I will see you soon with another video soon. Goodbye.